Hello and welcome to the Big Picture plugin for Jira overview recorded in August 2020. In this video, I'm going to take you through all the main functionalities of Big Picture, all the modules to show you what they are for, what can you do inside of those modules, and how can they be useful to growing or controlling your business and your work progress. All right, so let's go. Big Picture, when you install it, it's going to appear as the drop-down menu over here at the very top of your Jira menu bar. Big Picture is, one of the plugins that help you with project management in Jira environment, in Atlassian environment. In my opinion, this is the best project management plugin that you can get your hands on. So if you are looking into it, you are definitely on the right path. Now, in this menu, you will see that you can access your home tab, which is what we are looking at currently. You can see home over here, and this is the list of all of my projects, programs, portfolios, depending on what you want to depict over here. And also you can quickly jump to one of the recently visited projects or programs. You can jump to administration, and there are also some additional links that you can use. So let's have a look at what we have over here. This is the program manager. This is your navigation bar. This is where you get your shortcuts to all the other all of the projects and all of those modules inside those projects. You also get some basic information about your portfolio or about your single project, like a start date, end date, who is the leader of the project, and maybe what is also the description. You can see that most of my projects are missing the description. But you can also change a view to a timeline. And then, for example, you can collapse everything and see how your projects are scheduled in time. There is also a minimap over here that allows you to navigate your whole portfolio. There is a slider here as well that allows you to go through everything you have over here, right? And you can, for example, see that most of my programs are scheduled right over here. And the last view available is a Kanban board where you get 3 columns: not started, in progress, closed, and you can easily navigate between different projects or programs in different statuses, or you can even very easily change the status of the program just by simple drag and drop from one location, from one column to another. So all in all, this is the place where you start your navigation. This is the place where you can add new programs if you want to. And this is the place also where you get very handy shortcuts to different modules in projects that you want to visit. So when you click the name of the project, you will be taken to the first module available. And there are several modules available in Big Picture. Not all of them have to be turned on for every program, so you can kind of pick which ones will be useful for you in this particular case. So for example, some of those modules are more waterfall approach specific. Some of them work a lot better with agile mindset. So depending on what kind of project you want to show over here, what kind of project you want to manage, you will probably turn on or off some of those modules. And do not worry, they can always be turned on or off while the program or the project is already running, so you're not closing any doors for yourself. Don't worry about that. Now, the first one that you see currently is the Gantt. And the Gantt is probably the first module that has been developed over here. It's definitely one of the more popular ones. And well, basically the Gantt is the Gantt, right? So if you have been working with any project management tools that allow you to depict your project plan with the Gantt chart, this will feel familiar. On the left side, you get a column view that basically shows you all the necessary information coming straight from Jira. And on the right side, you see the Gantt chart, which will also feel familiar. This is where you see the placement of those tasks in time Every task will have a beginning and an end, which is a start and an end date. They will be connected with links. So there are 4 basic links that you can use here. Of course, those links also create some logical dependencies between those tasks, and the tasks will behave in a certain way depending on how they are connected and how you move them around later on. Now, an important thing, a very important thing to note over here is that I mentioned that all of those information is coming from Jira, and this is actually a very solid, very strong feature of BigPicture, but also any other project management tool that you employ together with Jira. You basically are working on your Jira data. This means that all of the information is coming straight from Jira. You get instant reporting, right? Your people are working on Jira tasks. They are reporting their progress on Jira tasks. And then this information is being used by the project management tools to give you instant information about the progress of your project. So that's super important to note, right? Everything you see over here is coming straight from Jira. It's not like, separate set of information for BigPicture only. No, this is coming straight from Jira. BigPicture doesn't create its own tickets. BigPicture doesn't, well, there is a tiny exception, but basically it doesn't. BigPicture stores almost no information in its own databases. Everything or almost everything is coming from Jira, which means that all of that information can be also viewed from the standard Jira ticket issue screen, right? So why is it important? Well, that's important because it allows you to stop organizing the status meetings all the time and asking people, how are you doing with that project? How are you doing with that task? You have this information coming straight from your main tool, which is hopefully Jira. If you're looking into BigPicture without having Jira, then also remember that this will be a huge benefit. You will have one tool that will cover both areas, and this will be so much more convenient for you, believe me. All right. Some most interesting features regarding Gantt. First of all, you can create tasks from here. So this is pretty convenient because these tasks that you create jump straight into your work breakdown structure over here, and you don't have to create them first in Jira and then go in here and try to find them and place them in a right place. They just jump in straight where you want them. Second of all, there is a grouping functionality over here. This is super cool because this allows you to very quickly slice the view that you have over here and look at it in a completely different way. So my favorite example regarding grouping is with the resources. So check this out. There is a resources snippet that appears at the bottom if I turn it on. And it basically shows me all people that are assigned to the tasks that I have in my project. And it is showing me how those people are loaded with work based on the original estimates on those tasks, right? So on the level of every person, I can see how many hours are assigned to that person daily, or if I, change the scale, I can see it weekly or even monthly. And then I might want to try to solve some problems that I can see over here, right? So, for example, I see some red cells over here showing me that, well, who is it? It's admin 4. So admin 4 is overloaded with work, right? And now I'm wondering, what does he have assigned, right? What is he assigned to cause this kind of a problem? And to find this, I can use grouping very easily. So I just go to group tasks and I say group the tasks by assignee. I say OK, and my whole view over here is being rewritten kind of. I will collapse everything and look what I have. I have a view that is divided by the assignee. On the level of every assignee, I have the information how many tasks are assigned to that person, right? And now I can easily find admin 4. I can see that he has 6 tasks. I can expand that. I can see those tasks over here, right? And if I click on a task it jumps into focus over here on the Gantt chart. So for example, look, I'm looking at 19th of May. This is where he has 61 hours assigned, and I can see that this task and this task are probably causing the problem, right? So, probably these tasks have just too big of an estimate. They should be broken down into smaller parts, or maybe they should be stretched in time, or maybe they should be reassigned to a different person. One way or another, look how quickly I've managed to identify where the problem is coming from. That's not all. That's not all in terms of the grouping, because you can also group your tasks by several columns at the same time. So I can, for example, say, show me the grouping by assignee and then divide it by status as well. And check this out. I'll collapse everything. And again, let's have a look at admin 4. I will expand him and I will see that he has one task in open, 4 tasks that are resolved, and 1 task that is in progress. Which ones have been resolved? No problem. These are the ones that have already been resolved. Look how quick that is. And that's not even all, because I can also change the order of that. And first have it by status and then have it by a person. So that's a really cool functionality to have and definitely to use, because Jira doesn't offer you that ease of data gathering. So that's definitely a feature that is worth using, because there is nothing like this in Jira, and you will definitely benefit from employing this feature. Then you also have baselines. So I'm not going to explain baselines. If you know what baselines are, then this is exactly what you think it is. There are task modes that allow you to control how automatic is the behavior of the tasks over here, depending on the dependencies that they are connected with. So this is also very cool. You can automate it, you can put it into manual, you can even lock tasks if you want them to stay in place. Then you can kind of control the view as well. So the most important thing, I think, in a view is that you can manage the columns, right? So I told you that all of that data is coming from Jira. Let's turn off the resources snippet. All of this data is coming from Jira, and that's completely true. But, you might be thinking, well, I have many more fields in Jira, or I have my own custom fields in Jira. Can I put them in here? Yes, you can. No problem at all. So this is where you use column views. You can define your own column views. So look, I can quickly switch to a completely different view, completely different set of columns by just clicking over here. Or I can go and modify the existing column view, or I can create a new one. And basically any Jira field that you have in your system can be shown over here. Pretty cool. Then there is also a critical path if you want to depict it. There is also a way to kind of connect the waterfall and the agile way by showing iterations over here on the Gantt. So that might be quite useful as well, as actually quite a lot of companies are not working pure agile or pure waterfall. They are working some kind of a mix. And this is then a very interesting feature to have. What else? If you have big template plugin, you can also use the export function basically on every module in BigPicture that you have. And export will allow you almost every time to export to Excel or CSV, most of the times also to PDF, which is basically an image export, which really looks pretty cool. It basically gives you the same picture that you have over here. So that's very, very useful. Almost every module also will contain quick filters, which is another way to very easily filter out the view that you currently have. So look, for example, I can say, show me only the tasks that have been delayed or are delayed. And you can see that many of my tasks have disappeared. The ones that are left are the delayed ones, and the ones that are kind of semi-transparent are not in the filter that I have enabled, but they are kind of available over here to just show you the structure of the remaining tasks. So all the parents are kind of semi-transparent to just show you that they are here, and this is where the tasks are in the structure or in the work breakdown structure that you currently have. In terms of the Gantt chart, obviously you can move things around over here. obviously you can connect things with one another. So if I grab over here and I connect it with this one, you will see that the tasks are nicely connected. You can see that this task has been rescheduled because this connection has an ASAP mode, which means that the follower has to be scheduled as soon as possible after the predecessor. So again, there are lots of things to choose from over here, and basically the Gantt allows you to manage your projects in a waterfall approach. Now the scope tab, we will jump to another tab. So the scope tab basically is showing you the left side of the Gantt. So you don't have the Gantt chart, you just have the column view. And the functionality that is available over here is more or less the same. Although I forgot to mention that both on the Gantt and in the scope, there is one more super cool feature that allows you for enhanced visualization of your data or of your statuses, which is that you can decide how you aggregate your data on the level of the parent. So you can see that there is a hierarchy, and BigPicture allows you to create that hierarchy basically in an unlimited way. You decide what is the parent, what is the child. You can automate it or you can do it manually. There are quite a lot of features to choose from. And if you have the hierarchy, then on the level of every column, you can basically choose if that column should aggregate the data on the level of the parent or just show the data coming from the parent itself, right? So usually you will want to aggregate the data, right? So that the higher you go in the hierarchy, it's basically showing you the information. So like over here, I would have the information about not this task only, task number 38, but I will have the information about all its children, right? Because I want to know what's the progress, like I have time tracking, so the progress bar over here, not from this task only, but from all the children that this task have, right? Here, this is my project, right? My main task of the project, and I want to have the information about the progress of my whole project. That's why I turn on the aggregation, and basically the range key over here allows you to do that. And the aggregation usually has several options to choose from. So for example, you can see here that I have children statuses, so I can see how many tasks are in certain status, right? So there is open, reopened, in progress, resolve. I could change it to percentages, for example, and then I would get the same information but with percentages. I could change it to a minimum, and then basically it will show me the lowest status from all the children, which in this case is open. So that probably doesn't make much sense, but all the other settings are really, really useful. And you can do it for almost every column you have, or every kind of column you have. So for example, I said almost because, for example, for the user picker columns, there is no aggregation. You can't do it because it doesn't make sense really. But for the original estimates, look, you can, for example, show the sum or the sum without the parent, which I use very often. And then you can see that the original estimate of your whole project is 1,400 hours. Pretty cool, right? The remaining estimate, you can do the same, right? Or you can show, for example, the average. But again, let's show the sum without the parent. And you can see that the remaining estimate of your project is still 12 weeks and 1 hour, right? How much time has been logged on your project? The same case, right? I can say that 22 weeks have already been done and 12 weeks are still remaining. That's why I have 66% over here. For the time tracking, let's jump back quickly to the Gantt for a moment. For the time tracking, you can also see a similar information, but again, there is an interesting thing I want to show you here. This is that setting that is showing you the actual progress versus the expected progress. Again, a super useful information. Basically, it's showing you that for this task, the expected progress would be 100%, so this task should have been finished already. But the actual progress is only 30%, so there is definitely something wrong, and it needs your attention as a project manager or someone from your team. So again, the load of information coming from here is quite big. All right, let's jump to the next one, because we don't want to have this video for this video to be too long. So let's jump to the resources. I think this is the pretty nice way to finish up the Gantt and the scope. Let's go to the resources. And in the resources, let me clean up the view for you a little bit, right? So this is usually what it will look like when you are used to working with it. But let me clean it up for you a little bit. So I will turn off the tasks. We don't want to look at the tasks. Sorry. I will leave the allocation. I will clean the capacity. So this is the simplest view that you can get over here. This tab basically allows you to, first of all, plan the work for your resources for the future, and second of all, to manage or control how the work is being done. So it kind of a little bit overlaps with the information that you have on the Gantt, because it also allows you to see if the progress is good, if you are doing, or if your team is doing great job with following up with the plan or not. So this is the simplest view. You get people on the left side, and you also get the information about how many hours are assigned to a certain person every single day. Why every single day? Well, because this is the setting that I have. I could change the scale, for example, and say that the aggregation is not daily, but weekly or monthly, right? So let me switch quickly to weekly, for example, and then you get the information per week. Very, very easy and very useful, right? So that's the very, very, very basic. Of course, you might be wondering at some point, well, okay, I can see that someone is overloaded with work, but what kind of work is it, right? Yes, so that's why you probably will have tasks turned on over here, because this is when you can actually see which tasks are causing the problem. It's you can collapse everything, so collapse all rows. So you don't have to look at those tasks if you don't want to, but at some point you might want to expand, for example, the admin, and you can see that, this period has a problem, and we can definitely see that this is the problem caused by this kind of task. We can click on it. We can see that, oh yeah, it has the original estimate of 2 weeks. So that's why it's taking up so much time over here. And, then you can do something about it. You can reassign that task to a different person by a simple drag and drop. Yeah, you can do that over here. Or you can change the duration of the task by expanding it, although sometimes you have to be careful with this. And I talk more about this during our training. And you can do some other things to manage your project plan over here. In some other cases, you also might be wondering, what is the real capacity of the person? So if you have a team that is, not all the people are working full capacity, you might be wondering, okay, so how many hours are actually available for that person daily, right? So you will notice that there are some people with 8 hours per day, which is pretty standard. But for example, Monica over here is a person that is working a non-standard work week, right? 7 hours Monday, 5 hours Tuesday. Tester over here is working 6 hours per day, right? And he doesn't work on Fridays. So you can see that there can be different workload. There can be different also holiday plans. There can be different assignment to that team, because those people are members of teams. So I can actually switch to teams over here to see the team planning, right? And the member can be assigned to a team for a specific percentage as well, right? So that's why having the information about the capacity over here sometimes might be very useful. So this is usually what I'm looking at. Sometimes you might want to turn off the capacity and allocation and turn on the remaining capacity instead, which kind of gives you the combination of those two numbers. So if this is more convenient for you, absolutely go with this. So what I showed you is that you can do the individual planning over here, but you might also realize that because there is a team switch over here, you can also do the team-based planning. It is very, very useful for a long-term planning when you don't know which individuals will be working on the single tasks, when you don't know how to divide work into tiny pieces that are assignable to individuals. Then you assign those pieces to teams, and then you can do that team-based planning. And then later on, at some point in time, you can break it down into smaller pieces and jump back to individual planning. There is also a skill-based planning over here. I'm not going to go into details, but this is also available. So you can define skills in your for your organization, and you can do the skill-based planning based on which specialists you need to perform the certain tasks that are awaiting for you in the future. Right, so I think that one important thing to note over here is that the resources module, I'm showing it directly after the Gantt and the scope because I feel it's kind of connected with the waterfall approach. This is not very useful when you're working agile, because when you're working agile, you're not really thinking about individuals, you're thinking teams. And when you're thinking teams, there is a board module that is better suited for helping you in the agile approach, right? So it's worth knowing that resources are here because, as I've mentioned, many companies are working mixed approach, but when you're working agile, probably the board will be more interesting to you. I will very briefly visit the teams module. This is basically where you define the teams that are available to your project. And basically every team has members, every members have the definition of since when till when are they available to the team, for what percentage, what skills they present. And this is basically quite simple and but important information that is being used in other modules later on. All right, so risks and reports I will leave for later. Now I will jump to the roadmap. Roadmap is a very interesting module that can be used in both waterfall and agile approach. This is basically a place that allows for objective-based planning, I would say. And it's primarily structured to be similar to the approach that is described in a scaled agile framework, but you don't have to use it that way. So you can see, for example, that I have a schedule over here. I have a timeline, and I have boxes connected to that timeline, and those boxes represent PIs, which are program increments. If I drill down, level down to iterations, you will see that under the PI1, I have iteration 1, iteration 2, iteration 3, right? So I kind of break down those time boxes into smaller time boxes. And I'm specifically saying time boxes intentionally because I want you to understand that these are really time boxes, and the way you name them is up to you. So you can, if you're not working agile, you can use them as quarters and months. You can use them as half a year and months, for example, right? So you can still do the long-term objective-based planning even if you're not working in an agile manner, which is still very, very important because I strongly believe that the objective-based planning is the way to go, right? You don't want to micromanage people. You want to give them objectives. You want them to take an initiative to reach those objectives. But to be able to do that, you have to show them the way. And this is exactly the screen where the way is defined, where the goal is defined, where you want to get, right? So what do you do over here? Basically, on the level of every time box, you define the goals for the time box. You can define the goals for the time box for specific teams, right? So you can see all your teams over here, and on the level of every team, you can define those goals. These can be just text goals, or these can be tasks coming from Jira. If you want to, you can also score those goals based on the planned business value, and then later on you can say what was the achieved business value. You can mark the goals as completed, abandoned, cancelled. You can move those goals to the next time box, and so on and so on. It's not very complicated really, but it's a really cool feature to have over here, and a really important module to use when you are thinking seriously about managing your teams. Well, this will be very, very useful for those of you that are thinking about or already are working with the Scaled Agile framework, obviously. So the roadmap module is kind of our first step to the agile approach, right? And the next step in the agile approach will be the board. So this is where the agile work usually happens. This is where you get to assign tasks to your program increments, or if you drill down lower, to your iterations over here, right? So let me again clean up the view a little bit like this. This is where you can see who or which team is going to be working on what in which time frame. So this says iteration 1, iteration 2, iteration 3. I want you to think about this as sprints. If you're thinking about agile, you're probably thinking sprints, right? So those iterations are usually sprints. That's and the interesting thing over here is that they can be actually mapped with your Jira sprints, right? So if you have teams already working on their Jira boards, already doing sprints, you can map those sprints over here, and there will be synchronizing with one another. So the changes that are done on your Jira board will be visible here. The changes done here will be visible on your Jira board. It's a two-way synchronization. Very, very cool. The way this module is organized is that on the right side, basically, you have the backlog of your tasks. So if you drill up to the program increment level, you will see basically the whole backlog of your project. And then what you can do is you can drag things to your program increments, or these can be versions, for example, revisions, whatever is the time box that you will define. I can multi-select over here with the control and with the shift button as well. So that's quite easy. And then you can basically drag the tasks from over here to any time box that you have over here. And this basically assigns those tasks to the certain team. So I dropped it into space engineers, and it also assigned this task to a certain time box, right? Then if you drill down to program iteration 2, for example, you will see that these are all the tasks that had been assigned to that program increment. And then from this level, you can drag those tasks to a certain iteration within the program increment, or whatever your time box will be called. So this allows you to very efficiently plan your work for the teams. And of course, you might be thinking, well, I can kind of do this as well in my Jira view. Sure, you can do it in your Jira as well. The problem that you have in Jira is that in Jira, you usually have one board per one team. Over here, you can have one board per multiple teams, right? And also you can create dependencies on that board, right? So I can say that this task is dependent on this task, and that creates a dependency, which is a very quick way for teams to identify what might be causing problems between their scheduled workload, right? So you can see that there can be quite a lot of those dependencies over here. And you can even choose whether you want to show only the soft dependencies, the strong ones, hide the incorrect ones, or correct ones, depending on what you're looking for. Oh, by the way, I clicked on the timeline, and you can create markers over here in the timeline as well, saying, for example, that there is an important release over here, right? Almost at the end of the iteration too. So I maybe didn't aim it properly. Well, actually, I didn't aim it at all. What is more, on the level of this module, you can also turn on some very nice aggregations, right? So for the planning, you will use the capacity allocation, and you can base it on story points, or you can also work with original estimates if you're not, purely agile. And then it basically is showing you how many story points are available for the program increment, how many of them are already assigned, so you can see how much more work you can assign to the program increment, or to the tasks. Now you can also change this to show you the progress of work, which is useful when the program increment or the iteration is already ongoing, because this is then showing you what is the progress, right? Out of 55 story points assigned, 5 have already been done. The rest is still in progress, right? Work in progress. So this will show you, somewhere maybe at the end of your sprint, you can come over here and you can check what is the actual progress, how well the work is being completed. If it isn't, maybe they just forgot to turn to switch the statuses, or maybe there are some problems that haven't been reported to you and it's worth investigating, right? So these totals are very, very useful to help you, first of all, plan and then also control the progress of your work. What else we have over here? We have the capacity planning, right? So this is basically the place where you get to define the capacity of your teams. The capacity can be calculated automatically based on the team's members and their workloads, their holiday plans, but you can also do it manually. So if you want to override it, or you don't want to manage individuals in BigPicture at all, then you can just define it by hand based on, for example, the historical sprints. So this is doable here as well. You can work with story points or with original estimates, again, depending on how mature your agile implementation in your company is. Yeah, probably several other features that I could go into. Oh, maybe one worth mentioning is that the cards that you can see over here, these are called task cards, and basically the information that is displayed is manageable. So you can decide what information you want to see over here. If you don't want to see the number of story points and you want to see something else instead, it's doable. If you want to add something to that card and make it bigger, it's doable. If you want to make it smaller, it's doable. So you have a very large degree of control over how it looks like. That's pretty important. You can also turn on some basic reporting over here to quickly show you what is, for example, the division of tasks between different people, or, for example, you can change it to number of tasks in different statuses. So depending on what you're looking for, this will probably give you some additional information that will be very, very helpful. That's the board. Really useful for all of you that are thinking or are already working in an agile manner. Risks. A quite simple module, I would say, but lots of the customers say that it's really, really useful. Basically, this allows you to store the information about your risks, connect with your project, manage those risks, review them from time to time. You have two different views that you can use. So this one that you see is the matrix view, but there is also a table view. And you can use both of them, you can use only one. It's up to you. The information basically on both of them is the same. So you get the tasks, you get the information about the consequence and the probability of every task. On the level of the matrix, you also get the heat map, which is basically showing you this. Okay, so I can see that my axes are, yeah, one of them is inverted. This will show me like almost none and trivial. So this corner will be greenish. This corner this corner will be reddish. You can see like this task is reddish. I can very quickly move the task from one status of consequence and probability to another just by simple drag and drop. I can very quickly assign, so add an existing issue to my risks, or create a new issue that will be my new risk in a project. And of course, during some status meetings, I can very easily browse through all of my risks and talk about them with my team and decide whether we need to take some action or whether it's okay and we can leave it as it is. You can even inline edit stuff from over here, from this enhanced, enlarged view. And again, similarly to the board, this is called a risk card, and the information that is displayed over here is customizable. So you can even define what information you want to see over here. If you, for example, want to make this card bigger and maybe contain some risk mitigation plan, or maybe have the person that is responsible for managing that risk, or maybe, you know, have the number indicating the amount of budget that is allocated to mitigate that risk, you can display those fields over here and have them visible right away without going into details of a single issue, which you can do just by clicking the issue key over here. So a pretty cool thing or a pretty cool module to have over here, And then the reports module is basically a fresh module still in beta version that allows you, that brings you some more visibility into the data that you have in your project. And what you can do over here is you can schedule, sorry, not schedule, you can look at your data, divide it into different or actually grouped in different ways. So there are several reports that will come to you out of the box. I'm pretty sure that this one that is called new report is not part of it. So if I do this, this is probably what you will see when you will have your fresh project, your fresh program. These 5 reports will be predefined for you. So assignee per status, priority per assignee, status per assignee, issue type per status, and fixed version per status. You can obviously drill down over here to look at the data with a little bit more detail. You have some tooltips when you hover over the data, so it brings some additional information. With BigPicture Enterprise plugin, which is like an additional plugin to BigPicture, it brings a little bit more functionalities to BigPicture itself. You will also be able to edit the reports, and you will also be able to create your own. Without the BigPicture Enterprise plugin, you will only get the 5 basic reports, and you can navigate them. You can look at the data, but you can't create your own or modify the existing ones. So this is something definitely to remember. I would say that this is not much, right? It's a good start for the reporting in terms of BigPicture, but to be fair, the reports are also very customer specific, right? So when I'm working with companies, almost everyone wants to look at their data in a little bit different way, and it's really hard to create a nice reporting module over here so that everybody will be happy with. So I'm not complaining. I think this is a great start to some reporting. If this is not enough, and in many cases it will not be enough, then also remember that lots of information you can get from the Gantt, for example, from the information that can be aggregated in the columns, right? What kind of what are the statuses of my project? What is the time tracking of my project? Lots of information you will be able to get from the totals from the board. Lots of the information, right? So I'm talking about these ones, right? On the level of every team, on the level of every time box. Lots of information you will be able to get from the resources. Also, if you have the Big Template plugin, then you will be able to export the data into some graphical formats that will also help you to share this information with other people in the company, for example. So that's taking a while. And there we go. You can see that the file has been downloaded over here. I can open it and I can look at exactly the same information I had. See, that's pretty cool. If this is not enough, then also remember again that we are working on Jira data. So you can create a dashboard in Jira and you can use the Jira gadgets to display the information maybe that you're looking for. If that is still not enough, then this is when you have to look for additional apps for Jira to help you with enhanced reporting. But this would, I always say that this is the last step. Let's try to use what we currently have and what we can currently do with the system out of the box before we jump into some more tools and create more costs for you. Okay. So obviously there are some administration features. Obviously there are some very interesting configuration regarding every individual project, like defining, for example, the scope of your project, like defining the automatic hierarchy creation, right? So defining that subtasks should always be children of their tasks, and maybe that the information should be grouped by versions or grouped by components. Lots of interesting things still happening over here. If you are interested in getting to know BigPicture really well, I strongly advise to reach out to me or us and ask about the training. We offer the live training. We also have the pre-recorded video training that you can easily use to train yourself and your staff. Just to give you an example of how big of an adventure it is, when we are doing the Jira admin training, it takes 2 days to train the admin in the Jira environment. When I'm doing the big picture training, it also takes 2 days without the time to do exercises. This is how complicated this tool is. When you look at it, the features might look, really simple to use, but there is a lot of complexity on demand, and you should be aware of what it can bring to the table so that you can use the full potential of the tool. You're paying for it, so you want to be able to use it in a proper way. And most of the companies that are coming to us asking for a training, some of them have already been working with BigPicture for a while. I'm being honest here with you guys. They are using like 30 to 40% of the functionalities of the tool because they just don't know that the other functionalities exist, or they don't know how to use them. We've been doing the big picture training sessions for more than 4 years now, and we've seen many industries, we've seen many implementations. We are helping implement that tool as well in many companies. So we can give you lots of examples, and we can give you lots of use cases that you can learn from instead of trying to experiment on your own instance in your own way. So if you will be interested, definitely send a message to us, give us a call, or just reach out to us in any way possible. We will schedule a free call with you to talk about how we can help you benefit from this amazing tool. All right, that took a while, but that's an overview of Big Picture. That is what I usually spend with the customers when I'm giving them the tour. So hopefully this was worth your time. Have a lot of fun with Big Picture. Again, I think this is the best project management plugin, project management app that you can find in the Atlassian ecosystem currently. And, if you do something very cool with it, let us know. We are always happy to hear about some interesting cases, or if you need any help, reach out to us as well. Thanks a lot for your time, and see you or hear you in the next videos.